I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to reduce it to its lowest terms, and, if it proved to be mean, to get the whole and genuine meanness of it, or if it were sublime, to know it by experience, and to give a true account of it. When I wrote the following pages, or rather the bulk of them, I lived alone in the woods, a mile from any neighbor, in a house which I had built myself, on the shore of Walden Pond, in Concord, Massachusetts, and earned my living by the labor of my hands only. When I first took up my abode in the woods, my house was not finished. It was a pleasant hillside where I worked, covered with pine woods, through which I looked out on the pond, and a small open field in the woods where pines and hickories were springing up.
July, 1845. Dear Mr. Thoreau, my employer, Dr. Agassiz, was happy to meet you last month with Mr. Emerson, and was quite impressed with your knowledge of local biology. He wonders if you might be able to provide some specimens for him to use in his work. Dr. Agassiz would gladly come to Concord to collect such specimens himself, but is drawn away by numerous and pressing engagements. If you are amenable to this idea, we will soon send you requests for these items and are happy to pay you for your trouble. Sincerely, James Elliott Cabot, Assistant to Dr. Agassiz, Harvard University.
There is some of the same fitness in a man's building his own house that there is in a bird's building its own nest. Who knows but if men constructed their dwellings with their own hands and provided food for themselves and families simply and honestly enough, the poetic faculty would be universally developed, as birds universally sing when they are so engaged. "What are you doing now?" Emerson asked. "Do you keep a journal?" "So I make my first entry today."
July 1845. My dear Henry, Mr. Emerson has assisted my family in acquiring a house near Concord, and there we are now, riding and living like philosophers, which is to say with little but happily. I will visit you soon and bring Mr. Garrison of the Liberator. We have all been so inspired by his earnest and unequivocal writings regarding the moral stain of slavery on our nation. Perhaps he will speak at our Lyceum on the topic. Yours truly, A. Bronson Alcott.
July 4th, 1845. Dearest Henry, congratulations on the start of your experiment. I hope that the work goes well and the ideas are fruitful. Mr. Emerson says you are intent to devour yourself in our woods, but I hope that you will remember to take good care and keep yourself well. Mother worries, as do I. Your loving sister, Sophia.
Interesting. My house was on the side of a hill, immediately on the edge of the larger wood, in the midst of a young forest of pitch pines and hickories, and half a dozen rods from the pond, to which a narrow footpath led down the hill. In my front yard grew the strawberry, blackberry, and life everlasting, John's wort and goldenrod, shrub oaks and sand cherry, blueberry and groundnut. I am no more lonely than the loon in the pond that laughs so loud, or than Walden Pond itself. I am no more lonely than a single mullein or dandelion in a pasture, or a bean leaf, or a sorrel, or a horsefly, or a bumblebee. I am no more lonely than the millbrook, or a weathercock, or the North Star, or the south wind, or an April shower, or a January thaw, or the first spider in a new house. Regularly at 7:30, in one part of the summer, after the evening train had gone by, the whippoorwills chanted their vespers for half an hour, sitting on a stump by my door, or upon the ridge pole of the house. My residence was more favorable not only to thought, but to serious reading than a university. And though I was beyond the range of the ordinary circulating library, I had more than ever come within the influence of those books which circulate round the world. The necessaries of life for man in this climate may, accurately enough, be distributed under the several heads of food, shelter, clothing, and fuel. For not till we have secured these are we prepared to entertain the true problems of life with freedom and a prospect of success.
July 1845. Dear Henry, you've told me yourself that it is difficult to begin anything without borrowing, and I know that you can use an axe, so I've left one for you in my front yard by the chopping stump. Do come by any time to fetch it. Perhaps we can discuss the new lecture I am working on while you are here. Your friend, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Wishing to earn $10 or $12 by some honest and agreeable method, in order to meet my unusual expenses, I planted about 2.5 acres of light and sandy soil, chiefly with beans. Near at hand, upon the topmost spray of a birch, sings the brown thrasher, or red mavis, as some love to call him, all the morning, glad of your society, that would find out another farmer's field if yours were not here. While you are planting the seed, he cries, drop it, cover it up, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. Interesting.
It's very good to make your acquaintance, Mr. Thoreau. Your sister seems to believe our thoughts and philosophies are very much aligned. It is good to find a youth so interested in the finer fruits of thought. Dear Miss Fuller, it was a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for the introductions to such brilliant new company. I am sure that writers such as these will fill our new journal with rays of golden talent. I have another name to add to the roster of our dial, Mr. Henry David Thoreau, a fine, brave youth of this town from whom I expect great things. I will send you some of his work soon. My son, young Waldo, is very well, and wife Lydian sends her love. R.W. Emerson. Recommendation for Henry David Thoreau. I cordially recommend Mr. Henry D. Thoreau, a graduate of Harvard University in August 1837, to the confidence of such parents or guardians as may propose to employ him as an instructor. I have the highest confidence in Mr. Thoreau's moral character and in his intellectual ability. He is an excellent scholar, a man of energy and kindness, and I shall esteem the town fortunate that secures his services. R. Waldo Emerson. Ah, hello.
Good afternoon. Huh.
Oh, Henry, how goes your new experiment? Has genius struck yet at my woodlot?
No genius yet, only some summer hares.
Well, I'm sure your muse will find you soon. Time in the woods has always given you inspiration. Since you're here, I could use your assistance with some research I'm doing for a new lecture. Could you spare the time to help me?
Certainly.
Oh, thank you. I know you're quite busy with your own work, but I need help finding my copy of Homer's Iliad. I saw that you were reading it down by a new cabin. Do you still have it there?
Yes, I have seen it and can get it for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. When you come back, we can discuss the passage I'm looking for. In the meanwhile, I found some books on bean planting and local wildlife you might find useful. I put them on the table in my library for you.
I look forward to it. Goodbye for now. I kept Homer's Iliad on my table through the summer, though I looked at his page only now and then. Every day or two, I stroll to the village to hear some of the gossip which is incessantly going on there, circulating either from mouth to mouth or from newspaper to newspaper, and which, taken in homeopathic doses, was really as refreshing in its way as the rustle of leaves and the peeping of frogs. Men have become the tools of their tools. The man who independently plucked the fruits when he was hungry has become a farmer, and he who stood under a tree for shelter, a housekeeper. We now no longer camp as for a night, but have settled down on earth and forgotten heaven. Many men walk by day, few walk by night. It is a very different season. Chancing to take a memorable walk by moonlight some years ago, I resolved to take more such walks and make acquaintance with another side of nature.
Ah, hello.
Good evening.
Ah, you found my home. Good for you, Henry. I wanted to look at that passage about the generations of mankind and how they're like the autumn leaves. You know the one I mean.
No, I haven't read it.
Oh, well, I had hoped you would and that it would give you inspiration. You should look at it when you have a moment. Your experiment reminds me of the image of heroic life that Homer gives us. I wonder, can we all make our lives heroic in our quality of living, if not on the field of battle? Since you're here, I've also been looking for my works of Confucius. I was reading it the other day down by the marsh. Have you seen it there by any chance?
I haven't seen it, but I can look for it.
Wonderful. Let me mark the very spot. I think I left it on your map so that you can find it.
That shouldn't be difficult to find. I'll see you again soon. Before yet any woodchuck or squirrel had run across the road, or the sun had got above the shrub oaks, while all the dew was on, I began to level the ranks of haughty weeds in my bean field and throw dust upon their heads. All sound heard at the greatest possible distance produces one and the same effect, the vibration of the universal lyre, just as the intervening atmosphere makes a distant ridge of the earth interesting to our eyes by the azure tint it imparts to it. As I walked in the woods to see the birds and squirrels, so I walked to the village to see the men and boys. Instead of the wind among the pines, I heard the carts rattle. In one direction from my house, there was a colony of muskrats in the river meadows. Under the grove of elms and buttonwoods in the other horizon was a village of busy men, as curious to me as if they had been prairie dogs.
Here come John and Henry, Mother, back from their adventures. How was it? Did the boat sail well? Did you see beyond the horizon? Oh, you both look full of good sun and stories. I can't wait to hear them all. Tell what new flowers you found blooming first.
July 1838. Dear Messieurs Thoreau, my sister, whom you know, has sent me a copy of the Yeoman's Gazette with your advertisement for a new Concord Academy and suggested I contact you regarding the education of my son, Edmund Sewell. Edmund is a bright pupil and is in need of instruction preparatory to a collegiate course with the usual English branches of study. I will send him with my daughter Ellen as chaperone to meet you at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Reverend Edmund Quincy Sewell.
Huh.
Good afternoon, Henry.
Good afternoon. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to be exchanged for it, immediately or in the long run.
What can I do for you?
Interesting. Confucius said, "To know that we know what we know, and that we do not know what we do not know, that is true knowledge." Books are the treasured wealth of the world and the fit inheritance of generations and nations. Books, the oldest and the best, stand naturally and rightfully on the shelves of every cottage. The grand necessity, then, for our bodies is to keep warm, to keep the vital heat in us. Here in the woods, I live in each season as it passes, breathe the air, drink the drink, taste the fruit, and resign myself to the influence of the earth.
August 1845. Dear Henry, don't forget that we care for you and miss you at home. Should you visit, I have left a surprise for you on the game table, as I know you love a good challenge. Stay safe and healthy. Your sister, Sophia.
When I return to my house, I find that visitors have been there and left their cards. Either a bunch of flowers, or a wreath of evergreen, or a name in pencil on a yellow walnut leaf, or a chip. Interesting. In the course of the summer, it appeared by the arrowheads which I turned up in hoeing, that an extinct nation had anciently dwelt here. As I drew a still fresher soil about the rows with my hoe, I disturbed the ashes of unchronicled nations who in primeval years lived under these heavens, and their small implements of war and hunting were brought to the light of this modern day. What shall I learn of beans or beans of me? I cherish them, I hoe them, early and late I have an eye to them, and this is my day's work. Fellow travelers, as they rattled by, compared it aloud with the fields which they had passed, so that I came to know how I stood in the agricultural world. Mine was, as it were, the connecting link between wild and cultivated fields. As some states are civilized, and others half-civilized, and others savage or barbarous, so my field was, though not in a bad sense, a half-cultivated field.
there you are, Henry. This new poem of yours is exceptional. I think it may be the purest strain and the loftiest that has yet peeled from this unpoetic American forest. Tell me, what are you working on next? And have you thought much of publishing your work, so that it might reach beyond our small hamlet? My dear Miss Fuller, it is good to hear from you that work on the next issue of The Dial proceeds. I am sending you a new piece that my young friend Thoreau has written for our journal. Talk with him but a few hours and you will find him a remarkable person, I am certain. He is a treasured companion, and I have had the most memorable conversations with him about nature and all else. We are all well, and young Waldo sends you his love. R.W. Emerson.